In August 2012, in Jalisco, Mexico, Sofia Ramirez vanished while walking on the beach. Her sudden absence cast a dark shadow over her family and the community. 7 years later, an investigator found something, and the truth about Sofia's disappearance would prove far more intricate and unexpected than anyone could have imagined. Before we continue, write in the comments where you are listening from, and at the end, I'd like to know your opinion on the outcome of the case. A young aspiring artist, Sofia, arrived in a charming coastal town on August 15, 2012, for her vacation. She looked forward to days of inspiration and relaxation by the ocean. Her arrival marked the start of what was expected to be a peaceful retreat, a pause from her usual routine. She carried her sketchbook, eager to capture the local scenery and the unique light of the area. The initial days of her stay unfolded with a serene rhythm as Sofia immersed herself in the tranquil atmosphere. She spent her mornings capturing the unique coastal light in her sketchbook and her afternoons enjoying the gentle breeze. She embraced the quiet charm of the small community, finding solace in its simplicity. She seemed so at peace, Mariana commented later. On the morning of August 17th, Sofia followed her established routine, beginning her day with quiet reflection. She might have read a book on the terrace, or perhaps continued working on a new sketch, finding inspiration in her surroundings. The day seemed to unfold like any other, filled with the promise of more tranquil moments by the sea. Around noon, a desire to experience the beach's afternoon charm led her to decide on a solo walk. She gathered her essentials, including a small towel and her backpack, preparing for a stroll along the water's edge. It was a spontaneous decision for a warm afternoon, a familiar activity she enjoyed. She always loved those long walks, Javier remarked. Before stepping out, Sofia had a brief, light-hearted exchange with Mariana and Javier, her godparents. She mentioned her intention to walk along the shore, a common activity during her visits to the area. Their conversation was short and unremarkable, filled with the usual pleasantries of vacation. She simply walked out the door into the bright afternoon. Sofia then made her way from the house towards the vast expanse of the nearby beach. The sun was warm, and the distinct scent of salt and sea filled the air. With each step, the rhythmic sounds of the ocean grew louder, inviting her closer to the shoreline, a path she had taken many times before. She never ventured far, Mariana had told authorities. Her last confirmed movements were captured by a distant observation, showing her strolling leisurely along the shoreline. She appeared completely absorbed in the natural beauty, perhaps collecting shells or simply enjoying the peaceful solitude of the afternoon. The ocean was her companion, stretching endlessly before her. As the afternoon wore on and the golden light of sunset began to softly paint the sky, the usual time for her return approached. However, Sofia remained absent from her godparents' home, an unexpected development as the evening hours drew near. No one realized then that the tranquil afternoon had quietly shifted into an unsettling mystery. Before we continue, if you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any cases. As the afternoon of August 17th deepened into evening, Mariana, a boutique owner, began to feel a subtle unease. Sofia, usually prompt, had not returned from her beach walk. Initially, she dismissed it as a teenager extending her stroll, perhaps lost in her artistic thoughts. But as darkness gathered, so did a growing sense of worry. Javier, a restaurateur, joined Mariana in trying to reach Sofia on her phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Each unanswered call amplified their anxiety. "It was unlike her to be out so late without letting us know," Javier recalled, his voice heavy with the memory. The silence on the line was deafening. The fading light of sunset brought a chilling realization to Mariana and Javier. This was more than just a delayed return. Panic began to set in. Their next thought was for Sofia's parents, Mateo, a university professor, and Elena, a pediatrician. They knew they had to share the distressing news. "I prayed to God that she was just playing a trick," Mariana later confessed, "but my heart told me otherwise." The call to Mateo and Elena was filled with a desperate urgency. Hearing that their daughter had vanished sent a shockwave through them, instantly transforming their evening into a nightmare. Disbelief quickly morphed into an acute sense of alarm, propelling them into a frantic scramble for answers. Elena, usually composed, felt her world tilt. The collective apprehension reached its peak as hours turned into an agonizing wait, with no sign of Sophia. The initial attempts to locate her through casual inquiries proved futile. It became undeniably clear that this was a serious disappearance, compelling Mariana and Javier to take the crucial step of alerting the authorities. "We had to call," Javier stated. There was no other choice left. The late afternoon stillness was abruptly shattered by the urgent call Javier made to the local law enforcement agency, reporting Sophia's unexplained absence. His voice, usually steady, conveyed a profound sense of alarm as he detailed the events of August 17th, initiating the official response. The information was taken with a serious, methodical tone. Soon, the first police patrol car, its emergency lights cutting through the growing twilight, arrived at the godparents' residence. Its presence formally marked the beginning of the official investigation. The flashing lights served as a stark contrast to the quiet panic that had consumed Mariana and Javier, signaling a shift from private worry to public procedure. Officer Ramirez, the initial responder, began the methodical intake of information, his demeanor calm yet focused. He posed a series of standard questions, gathering every available detail about Sophia's last known activities and her general habits. This systematic approach provided a stark contrast to the raw, palpable distress emanating from Mariana and Javier. The formal complaint was meticulously filed, outlining Sophia's last known movements on August 17th and the precise time she was last seen on the beach. This crucial document officially initiated the missing person case, setting in motion the full resources of the law enforcement agency. "We just hoped they could find her quickly," Mariana later shared. Inspector Garza, a seasoned detective known for his calm resolve, was swiftly assigned to lead the complex investigation. His arrival signaled a more structured phase, as he immediately commenced with a series of routine questions, delving deeper into Sophia's background and her typical behavior during her visits. His experience brought a sense of grim determination. The local law enforcement agency thus began its systematic involvement, processing the initial details with a clinical detachment that aimed to cover every procedural base. Their measured response, while professional, felt distant from the emotional turmoil of the family, highlighting the inherent difference between personal anguish and official protocol. "I kept thinking, God, please guide them," Elena recalled. The morning of August 18th saw the full deployment of local law enforcement resources, quickly establishing a command post near Sophia's last known location on the beach. Uniformed officers and emergency personnel coordinated efforts, marking the beginning of a large-scale operation. The air was thick with a sense of urgency, replacing the usual calm of the coastal area. Investigators, working closely with experienced local fishermen and residents, meticulously defined the initial search perimeter. They carefully considered the coastline, the tides, and the prevailing currents to optimize their strategy. "We marked out every possible area she could have gone," an officer recalled. "Every meter had to be covered." A widespread call for volunteers resonated deeply within the community. Many residents, their faces etched with concern, came forward to join the uniformed officers in an expansive ground search. They combed the beach, forming human chains, each step filled with a desperate hope to find any sign of the vanished young woman. The search teams faced immediate and daunting challenges. The vast open beach stretched for miles, while treacherous shifting sand dunes created an undulating landscape. Patches of dense coastal vegetation further complicated their progress, making every step an arduous task in the relentless sun. "It felt like looking for a needle in a haystack," a volunteer remarked. Hours of arduous searching throughout that day yielded no definitive trace of Sophia. The lack of any concrete findings intensified the urgency among the searchers, leading to a palpable sense of growing frustration and despair. Each passing moment without news deepened the anxiety that gripped the entire community. As the ground search continued, small local boats were mobilized to cover wider stretches of the ocean and shoreline. These vessels extended the search beyond the immediate vicinity of the disappearance, hoping to spot anything unusual on the water or along more distant coves. We cast our nets wide, praying to God for a sign, a fisherman said. Investigators also conducted initial interviews with beachgoers and local vendors. They gathered fragmented accounts of a young woman matching Sophia's description, seen on the afternoon of August 17th. However, none of these brief observations provided a clear or actionable direction for the intensifying search efforts. As the sun set on August 18th, painting the sky in somber hues, the absence of any concrete evidence left the search teams and the community grappling with profound uncertainty. A deepening sense of dread settled over the town, replacing the earlier hope with a heavy, anxious silence. Every shadow seemed to hide something, Javier later recalled. The initial methodical efforts, though thorough, began to give way to a more desperate, exhaustive push. Search teams fanned out into less accessible and more isolated stretches of the coastline and dunes, driven by an urgent need to uncover any clue, no matter how small, that might explain Sophia's mysterious vanishing. As the initial search yielded no immediate results, the focus of the investigation quickly turned towards those closest to Sophia. The godparents' household became the immediate center of scrutiny, as they were the last to have seen her. Investigators understood that in many such cases, answers often lay within the intimate circles of the vanished individual. The shift in strategy marked a more introspective phase of the inquiry. Javier, Sophia's godmother's husband, was among the first individuals formally questioned by the local law enforcement. His proximity to Sophia's last known interaction on August 17th placed him under immediate and unavoidable scrutiny. "I cooperated fully. I had nothing to hide," Javier later recounted, emphasizing his willingness to assist with the investigation. During his interview, Javier provided a detailed account of his activities on August 17th, carefully outlining his movements and those of his wife throughout the day. Investigators meticulously cross-referenced his statements, beginning the laborious process of verifying every detail he presented. They sought any inconsistencies that might indicate a deeper involvement or withheld information. Mariana, Sophia's godmother, underwent a similarly intense interrogation. Her emotional distress was evident as she recounted the day's events from her perspective. The officers observed her demeanor closely, noting the profound anxiety that colored her every word. "It was agonizing to talk about it all," Mariana tearfully shared. "I just wanted my goddaughter back." Investigators meticulously scrutinized both Javier and Mariana's statements, searching for any contradictions or elements that did not align. They aimed to build comprehensive profiles, examining their alibis and emotional responses. The thoroughness of these interviews was paramount in establishing a baseline of truth and identifying any potential red flags. Following the initial family interviews, the investigative attention broadened to include other local individuals. Among them was Miguel, whose presence near the beach or a past history known to law enforcement drew police interest. This expansion reflected the need to explore all possible avenues beyond the immediate family circle. "They asked me about everything," Miguel later recalled. "My whole life seemed to be on display." Miguel's interrogation presented challenges for the officers. He offered firm denials regarding any involvement in Sophia's disappearance, yet his alibi for the afternoon of August 17th was loosely constructed. This made it difficult for officers to either definitively confirm its validity or completely refute his claims. The uncertainty surrounding his account left investigators with lingering questions. The methodical questioning of these early suspects aimed to establish motives and opportunities, systematically eliminating those whose stories held up under scrutiny. However, each line of inquiry, despite its intensity and the officers' persistent efforts, consistently ended without conclusive answers, leaving the investigation in a troubling state of uncertainty. Inside the investigation room, Detective Inspector Garza led a crucial meeting, reviewing all initial findings from the search and the first round of interviews. The whiteboard was filled with notes, timelines, and fragmented information, a visual representation of the complex puzzle before them. The atmosphere was one of intense, focused concentration. The team debated the inconsistencies in some testimonies, particularly those from the godparents. Officer Rodriguez expressed his suspicion, suggesting that the very proximity of Mariana and Javier to Sofia made them a central point of the inquiry. People often hide in plain sight, he commented, his gaze fixed on the notes. Detective Morales, a seasoned officer with a skeptical eye, challenged this perspective. He pointed out the distinct lack of any compelling physical evidence that directly linked the godparents to Sofia's disappearance. Suspicion isn't proof, Morales stated firmly. We need more than just their emotional distress. The discussions then shifted to the possibility of an unknown assailant encountered on the beach. Given the vast, unmonitored expanse where Sofia was last seen, a random encounter could not be ruled out. The officers weighed the likelihood of an opportunistic act against a planned abduction. The beach is open, Inspector Garza pondered. Anyone could have been there. Different investigators presented conflicting theories on how someone could vanish without a trace from a seemingly public beach. They pondered the nature of a potential encounter, debating whether it was a struggle, a forceful removal, or something more deceptive. Each theory, however, remained unsupported by concrete facts, fueling the uncertainty. The group meticulously analyzed the limited information gathered from Miguel's interview. They noted his evasiveness and the shaky nature of his alibi, which made him a person of interest. Yet, despite these concerns, the absence of any concrete link to Sofia prevented them from pursuing him as the prime suspect. He seemed nervous, but that doesn't make him guilty, an investigator observed. The lack of a coherent narrative or definitive physical evidence led to growing frustration within the team. Each officer, despite their shared goal, held on to a different, unproven hypothesis. The case felt like a maze, with every turn leading to another dead end, deepening the sense of professional disappointment. The meeting concluded with a clear and unsettling understanding. The current fragmented evidence allowed for too many possibilities. They realized that a breakthrough was desperately needed to unify their investigative approach and provide a single, actionable direction. The path forward remained obscured, demanding a fresh perspective. For nearly 7 years following Sofia's vanishing in August 2012, the investigation remained mired in a frustrating stalemate. No substantial leads emerged despite the tireless efforts of local law enforcement. The perplexing nature of the case continued to challenge seasoned investigators, leaving them with a profound sense of unresolved mystery. Throughout those long years, the persistence of Sofia's parents, Mateo and Elena, was unwavering. They consistently pressed authorities not to abandon the case, returning to the region regularly. Their dedication kept the tragic event alive in the public consciousness, a constant reminder of their beloved daughter's absence. We never gave up hope, not for a moment, Mateo later stated. In July 2019, nearly 7 years after the initial report, a fresh team of investigators, driven by a new approach and leadership, took on the cold case. They were determined to re-examine every minute detail, believing that a new perspective could unlock the long-held secrets. This renewed commitment offered a glimmer of hope to the grieving family. Their focus immediately turned to the physical evidence meticulously preserved since 2012. Among the items carefully catalogued were a backpack and a towel, recovered from the initial scene. These seemingly mundane objects held silent testimony, patiently awaiting the right technology to reveal their secrets. The pivotal decision was made to leverage cutting-edge forensic technology, a method far more advanced than what was available in 2012. They decided to cross-reference the unidentified genetic material found on these items against a vast national database. This innovative strategy aimed to breathe new life into the stagnant inquiry. This advanced database contained genetic profiles not only of incarcerated individuals, but also, critically, of their familial connections. It was a strategy not employed in the original investigation, and it offered a wider net for potential matches. It was a shot in the dark, but a necessary one, a forensic expert recalled. The system, after meticulous processing, delivered a monumental familial match in July 2019. It indicated the presence of a relative to someone already within the database, a scientific breakthrough. This unexpected correlation ignited a spark of possibility, illuminating a path where only darkness had prevailed. It felt like a miracle, Elena said, reflecting on the news. This breakthrough directly led investigators to a previously unconsidered individual, Ricardo. His name had never surfaced in the initial chaotic years of the inquiry, remaining completely unknown to authorities until this crucial genetic link emerged. The case, once sprawling with possibilities, now narrowed sharply to a single compelling lead. The revelation of this genetic link instantly transformed the entire scope of the investigation. It provided a singular, irrefutable line of inquiry that rendered all previous theories obsolete. The long years of speculation, dead ends, and false leads suddenly converged towards one undeniable truth. This preserved genetic material, dormant for so long, now stood as the undisputed key piece. It finally unlocked the path toward understanding what truly happened on that fateful August afternoon, promising to bring closure to a mystery that had haunted the region for nearly a decade. On July 25, 2019, nearly 7 years after Sofia vanished, Ricardo was located and apprehended in a border area. This critical moment marked the end of a long and frustrating pursuit, bringing a definitive suspect into custody. His capture signaled a turning point, closing a chapter of uncertainty and opening another of accountability. Facing the irrefutable genetic evidence and the weight of the investigation, Ricardo's carefully constructed facade crumbled during intensive questioning. His initial denials gave way under pressure, leading to his acknowledgement of the devastating events of that fateful August day. There was no denying the evidence, an investigator confirmed later. He revealed that he had approached Sofia on the beach with the intent to rob her. When she resisted, a grave injury was inflicted with a weapon, and he then suffocated her to silence her. To conceal his actions, he buried her body in the sand, hoping to erase all traces of his involvement. Sofia's body had been discovered on August 19, 2012, partially buried in the sand within a secluded dune area by a local resident. This heartbreaking find initially offered no immediate answers about the perpetrator, plunging the community further into distress. The identification process confirmed the worst fears for her family. The somber notification reached Matteo and Elena, Sofia's parents, confirming Ricardo's arrest and finally connecting the long unsolved puzzle pieces. A profound wave of grief, mixed with a sliver of relief, washed over them after years of unbearable anguish. It was the closure we prayed for, yet the pain remained, Elena later shared. Ricardo was formally charged with homicide, his apprehension marking the official start of the arduous legal battle ahead. The focus shifted from investigation to prosecution, moving the case from a cold inquiry into the relentless pursuit of justice. The community hoped for a swift and definitive resolution. The trial concluded in March 2020, with the court delivering a verdict that found Ricardo guilty. He was sentenced to 28 years and 6 months in prison, closing the agonizing legal chapter for Sofia's family. This verdict affirmed the truth that had taken so long to emerge, providing a measure of accountability for his actions. The resolution, while offering some closure, left an indelible mark on Matteo, Elena, and the community. It served as a stark reminder of the long struggle for justice and the enduring hope in finding truth through persistent faith, reinforcing that even in the darkest times, light can eventually prevail. If you followed to the end, please like the video, write in the comments what you thought of the case's conclusion, and take the opportunity to subscribe and activate the notification bell. Stay with me and watch the next video on the card appearing here on the screen. I'll see you in the next case on our channel.